Hello there, fellow seekers of knowledge and potential psychopaths. Welcome back to our channel, where we delve deep into the fascinating intersection of psychology, human resources, and pop culture. Today, we're exploring a topic that's as devilishly intriguing as Lucifer Morningstar himself. That's right, we're asking the question, were you born evil? But don't worry, we're not here to diagnose anyone. We're here to explore the science behind the potential for evil that resides in all of us. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our enlightening content. It's with your support that we can continue to bring you eye-opening and enlightening content. So grab your pitchforks and halos and let's get started. Let's set the stage with a little background. Remember Lucifer Morningstar from the TV show Lucifer, or Damien Thorn from the movie The Omen? Those were some evil dudes, right? But why were they evil? Were they born that way? Well, in Damien's case, being the Antichrist and all, I'm pretty sure he was just born evil. But you, the viewer, well, that's where things get a bit more complicated. So hold on to your wings, because we're about to uncover the Lucifer Effect. The idea that even the most heavenly beings like you or Matt Damon can take a one-way trip to the dark side. It's like the ultimate cosmic makeover from angel to devil. Now, you might be thinking, what's the deal with Lucifer? Wasn't he God's golden boy? Well, absolutely. He was the favorite angel, but he got a little rebellious, dared to challenge authority, and suddenly found himself on a one-way ticket to the depths of hell. And poof, Satan was born, the embodiment of evil. But guess what? This phenomenon isn't just reserved for celestial beings. Us mere mortals can turn into evildoers too, given the right or wrong circumstances. Hooray! Seriously though, it's not just the stuff of biblical tales. We read about everyday folks doing dark deeds all the time, whether it's in war zones or cozy communities. So how does this transformation occur? Is it like a magical spell? Well, not quite. In order to understand how Matt Damon can turn into Damien, we need to delve into the human psyche, uncovering the mechanisms, situations, and conditions that make us embrace our inner demons. Ever swiped a candy bar when the storekeeper's back was turned? Petty theft might not be the grandest evil, but it shows something important about human nature, how we're willing to bend our morals when the circumstances allow it. It's like moral elasticity, per se. You and I are rubber bands just existing in this world together, until one of us becomes brittle and snaps. You may have heard of the age-old debate about whether people are born good or evil. We like to think there's a clear line, but it's really more of a fuzzy haze. Take Ivan Chip Frederick, a regular guy turned Abu Ghraib prison guard. He wasn't born with devil horns. He was a baseball-loving patriot from Virginia, but the prison's environment somehow turned him into a tormentor. What gives? Oh, the classic nature versus nurture debate. Psychiatrists and psychologists love to dive into our traits and genetics, thinking they hold all the answers, or what is called dispositional causes. But let's not rush to judgment. The situation you're in can have more power over you than you might think. You see, even though Chip might have had a regular upbringing, the prison situation was like a potion that turned him from Prince Charming to a dark knight. As you become more familiar with this concept, you'll start to see Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader doesn't seem so far-fetched. Let's talk about personality. We all know someone who's a sweetheart with friends, but morphs into grumpy cat around authority figures, right? It's like having a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on. Turns out it's not just you. Our personalities are like chameleons, changing colors based on the situations we find ourselves in. Ever heard of the Milgram Experiment or the Stanford Prison Experiment? Both are great examples of how one's personality shifts from the light to the dark because of the situation in which they found themselves. Let's start with the Milgram Experiment. Here's the setup. You've got a bunch of folks thinking they're joining some memory-boosting boot camp, playing teacher to a secret volunteer learner on the other side of a curtain, memorizing word pairs. For every goof-up, these teachers can zap the learner with an electric shock. At the beginning of the session, the shock was set to 15 volts, a mere tickle, if you will. As the session progressed, the voltage increased in increments all the way up to life-threatening levels that had the learners screaming in pain. But before you go and get your pitchforks, it's important to know that the learners were actors and no one was actually being zapped. However, the teachers didn't know the zaps were fake. Unbeknownst to them, the teachers were the true subjects being studied for their ability to confront authority. And guess what? Despite the screaming and the shock, most teachers kept cranking up the juice. And why, you ask? Well, because some expert in a lab coat told them to. About 65% of the teachers zapped the poor learner with the max life-threatening jolt. That's pretty disturbing. So, were these folks closeted monsters? Not exactly, but throw them into the right recipe of circumstances and voila! You've got yourself a stew of monstrous behavior. Now let's talk about the Stanford Prison charade. Imagine a bunch of regular Joes transformed into twisted tyrants, all in the name of science. In 1971, some mad scientist decided to throw young dudes into a make-believe jail and let the chaos unfold. These guys were given batons, uniforms, and sunglasses that made them look cooler than Boss Godfrey. And the prisoners? Well, they got stripped, deloused, and slapped with numbers instead of names. Totally dehumanized. Things spiraled faster than a roller coaster with a broken brake. Prisoners refusing orders? Guards were on them like a pack of hornets. They dreamed up all sorts of humiliation, such as making prisoners relieve themselves in buckets, lay freezing on the cold floors, and they even stuck a prisoner in a dark closet, probably getting to know their inner demons. Days passed, and those average Joes turned into the kings of cruelty, dishing out more sadism than a villain in a comic book. And just like that, in only 6 days, the whole twisted circus came crashing down. Now, hold on to your moral compass, because these guys weren't supposed to turn into Darth Vaders overnight. So what flipped the switch? Obedience and evil deeds are like dance partners, forever linked. Remember the Milgram Experiment? That lab coat-wearing authority figure had participants hooked. Sign the contract, they said, and bam! Obedience overpowered empathy. Have you ever felt like you're off the hook for something bad? Well, that can lead to some pretty evil outcomes. Say hello to de-individuation. When you're anonymous, it's like morality takes a vacation. De-individuation is a fancy term for feeling like a faceless nobody in a crowd. Think of it like going incognito at a masquerade ball, but without the fancy masks. Let's take another look at the Stanford Prison spectacle. The guards there got the VIP treatment with uniforms and super spy shades. You know, the kind that could block eye contact better than a firewall blocks sketchy websites. That was their disguise. Disguise your appearance, and personal accountability takes a vacation. Now, for the second recipe to cook up de-individuation magic, find a place where your chance of becoming an instant celebrity is slimmer than a hair's breadth, aka somewhere where no one will recognize you. Cue the abandoned car experiment. Experimenters decided to test out de-individuation with cars. First, they abandoned a car in New York's Bronx, where vandals picked that car clean like it was a Thanksgiving turkey. Not stopping there, they threw another car down in a cozy old Palo Alto, California. And guess what? Nothing. Not a soul laid a finger on that car. Now, you're probably scratching your head and asking, what's the deal, universe? Well, it's all about the vibe. The Bronx gave off "who cares" vibes, perfect for the cloak of de-individuation. Meanwhile, in Palo Alto, that community spirit was stronger than a triple espresso shot. Why? De-individuation, my friends. When we're anonymous, the devil on our shoulder gets louder. From de-individuation to dehumanization. Ever heard of it? It's when you stop seeing others as fully human. When you treat someone as less than human, it's easier to justify cruelty. History is full of examples, like Nanking during the Japanese invasion of China. Soldiers justified their atrocities by dehumanizing their victims, giving themselves a psychological loophole that let them commit the unthinkable. And finally, our last topic, euphemistic language and powerful ideologies. It's like wrapping evil in a shiny package and calling it a gift. Remember the US invasion of Iraq? The government gave it a fancy cover story, a war on terror to protect national security. Suddenly, torture was justified, all under the guise of a noble cause, like dressing up a wolf in sheep's clothing. So where does that leave us? Are we all Damiens or Matt Damons? Depending on the situation, you could be both. However, we have the power to resist evil and embrace our inner heroes. We can all toss the Emperor over the ledge to save our sons as Vader did. Speaking of Star Wars, how come there are never any or very few railings inside structures like the Death Star? Hello, small walkway with no railing and a 1,000-foot drop. I mean, serious OSHA violations all over the place, just everywhere. Back to the topic at hand, how can you resist the dark side? First off, take responsibility for your actions, no matter the circumstances. Just because no one's watching doesn't mean you're off the hook. And if you find yourself obeying unjust authority, stop and question it. Remember the Milgram Experiment? Not everyone went along with it. You have the power to defy the dark forces. And finally, challenge the stories and ideologies that justify evil actions. Don't let euphemistic language or grand ideologies blind you to the truth. We're all capable of both good and evil, and the line between them is blurrier than a ghost's shadow. But here's the twist. You have the power to choose. Are you going to embrace your inner devil or rise up as a hero in waiting? And with that, we've reached the end of our devilish journey. But before you go, I want to give a massive shout out to our amazing subscribers. You guys rock our world. Everyone, please remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed this mind-bending exploration. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. And hey, we're open to suggestions. Do you want more content like this? Maybe a deep dive into the psychology of your favorite villains? Or perhaps something completely different? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep laughing, stay curious, and never stop exploring the quirky corners of our human experience. This is the Psych HR Geek signing off.